Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Semino?
Here.
Ms. Frasca?
Here.
Mr. Molesky?
Here.
Ms. Palin? Here. Mr. Dalio?
Here. Executive session be it hereby resolved by the Little Lake Harbor Board of Education to enter into closed executive session for the purpose of discussing the matters checked below. Action may or may not be taken upon return to the regular section. Matters involving personnel and contractual matters. Do you have a motion?
We're doing pledge.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
this is
voted
before it.
second.
Oh, see, this is before it, sorry. Pledge allegiance, please. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Open Publics Meeting Act. This is to advise the general public that the compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of the Little Lake Harbor Board of Education caused by, posted at the Office of the Board of Education located at 307 Pine Road, Little Lake Harbor, New Jersey. In fact, on January 2016, to the Asbury Park Press, Atlantic City Press, and now Hawthorne Newspaper. And the sandpaper and the Office of Municipal Clerk, Little Lake Harbor, meeting notice setting forth the time and the location. Recommend motion to approve agenda. May I have a motion? And a second? Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Semino?
Here.
Ms. Frasca?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Here. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, board presentation, 2014-2015 water presentation by Dean Goldie, Nancy Spirola, and Ward Scott.
We had unmodified opinions here, audit the findings, we'll add more findings. Everything ran smoothly.
I have the date wrong. It's okay. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll just tell them.
Fund balance, fund balance did decrease by about $185,000. We had
I'll just tell them
tax
that's my
levy.
mistake.
We had some insurance prices, there was
Whatever.
variation this year, with increases. However, last year we had about $254,000 in fee money that came in as revenues. So without that, that's where our decrease came in for the revenues. We had instructional expenses increased by about $251,000, and our health benefits increased by about $170,000. So those are the main components as to why your fund balance did drop during the current year. To go over your excess surplus, or actually your fund balance, there are several areas of that. I don't know if you have your arts in front of you, if you've looked through them. We have excess surplus that we have to calculate each year, which is reserved for tax relief for each budget year. In 15-16, we had budgeted $481,000 that was required from last year's audit. For the audit that we just completed for June 30th of 2015, we have an excess of $401,000 that has to be budgeted for this coming budget for 16-17. So that will be used for tax relief this coming year. Then we had $123,000 in reserve for encumbrances. That's orders that we've made during the school year that we haven't gotten the actual items yet. So the money is reserved to pay for those items as they come in and they'll be paid out of this budget year. And then available free balance is about $432,000 that you have to use for the current year budget should you decide to use that. If anybody has any questions.
I just want to make a note this morning, field work, everything ran very smoothly, and staff should be very well, highly commended for everything. So, smooth audit.
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
Good.
Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, HIV presentation. Everyone, Superintendent McCool.
Pay no attention to the first slide. Because I forgot to change the date on it. It's actually September of 2015 through December of 2015. It's the first year. So at the end of the year, we obviously do a culmination of everything. And I used last year as a template, and I didn't change the date on the front, so I apologize. Okay, so school year, we had 8 incidents so far of violence, which could be something like fighting, or in these cases, it was primarily in our behavior rooms, and it was just a student that might lashed out or just had some kind of physical activity, which we anticipate in those type of classrooms. So overall, the incidents by school, and you can see that they are primarily at Frog Pond, which is where we house those disability classes. So a lot of those incidents are coming out of those classrooms. These are the actions that were taken in response to those incidents. And you can see that we've had 3 out-of-school suspensions, and this number has really gone down significantly from last year, looking at your data. We're really trying to keep the kids in school as much as possible and using remedial measures. Erin, our special ed director, has been great with educating the staff and really coming up with a plan B other than just kicking them out of school. Once again, in EVVRS, it breaks it down into our general ed kids, which you can see is only 1, and they are primarily things happening with students with a disability. And the way that the law works, if a student is special education and there's some type of act, it has to be reported under this system. Once again, here is the victim information for those cases. Mostly are students with disabilities. We had 1 general ed in that population. And now for HIB, our first half of the year report. These are some of the trainings that we have done to prevent measures of harassment, intimidation, and bullying in the classroom. And I apologize when it went on to from a Mac to this, it does look a little distorted, but this is PACS, and that's one of our character ed programs that they're doing in the school. We have some safety team workshops, anti-bullying lessons, STARS, and district HIB training. And we have been planning and moving forward for next year already with a positive behavior support system. So we're hoping to have that fully in effect come next school year. These are some of our HIB numbers at Frog Pond. Now these are the ones that we investigated. So there were 6 at Frog Pond and there have been 12 at Mitchell. You can see that they were all complete, and these were some of the things that have happened in result of those. And in most cases, it's counseling or parent phone call. Now just keep in mind, these are not confirmed cases. These are investigations that were done. These, on the other hand, and I apologize again for the numbers being a little off, these are the confirmed cases. So we had 3 at Frog Pond and 1 in Mitchell. Obviously, we give each case a unique code as well as unique care and how we deal with that. And you are getting copies of those at an executive session each month. Employees can have access to this information as well after it is board approved. And that is it. Do you have any questions about HIB or EVVRS? Anything from the board? No? Okay. On to our next presentation.
Budget information 2016-17.
Okay, without further ado, our budget presentation. Just to give you a little bit of a background, our committee consists of myself, Mr. Dalio, our board president, Mr. Molesky, and Mr. Becker. And we have met via face-to-face, we've met through email, and we've been trying to come up with our starting point, basically. And as I go through the presentation, you're going to see exactly where we're at. Now, keep in mind that these are only projected figures at this point. So we have to get an accurate number from the township in regards to their ratables. They did, however, offer what they assume the rate is going to be. We are going to get a definite number in regards to the ratables on February 15th. But they gave us a projected amount that we're working with for our figures at this point. Also, we're assuming that state aid is going to stay constant as it were last year. Now, historically, looking at the numbers for Little Lake Harbor, we've gotten an increase each year of around 4%. So we have not included that 4% in the figures. We're using the numbers from last year. So keep that in mind as well. Now, right off the bat, before we even try to plan our budget, we have an increase due to contractual obligations of a little over $400,000. Along with that, as does every school district, we have some health care increases that we have to factor into our budget. So, with that said, if we, as the Little Egg Harbor School District, were to raise our 16-17 budget deficit, if we were to raise the tax levy, here is what we would be in a deficit still. So, for example, if we kept it flat and went to 0%, if we raised the tax levy nothing, we would be in the hole $638,000. 1%, you can see accordingly, 1.5, 2, and if we were to use banked cap, which at this point is 1.75 above the 2% that we have available to us, if we were to include that, we would be in the hole $235,000. Now keep in mind, this banked cap does not include the banked cap that will be available to us in February. So in February, the state comes up with a new projection and they tell us, based on your health care costs and all of those specifics that you get banked cap for, we would be able to raise this a little bit more if we chose to do so. But for purposes of this presentation, and as I said, it's a starting point, this is where we're at in regards to the tax levy and our budget. Now, how do we plan our budget from there? Well, the first thing that we're going to do as a finance committee, as a board of education, and of course, listening to staff and the community, is say, where do we want to start? So if we said we would go to 1.5, for example, we know that we have to cut $465,000 from our budget. And we would move down and say, well, where could we cut here? Where could we cut here? Are there retirements? Are there non-renewals? And what programs could we live without? And this is how we are going to start planning. So, how does this affect the average taxpayer? And I apologize because it got cut off a little bit at the bottom, but I can read that to you. So if you, if we as a school district decided to raise the tax levy 0, we already went over the numbers and how that affects us. For a taxpayer with an average home of $100,000 assessed value, they would get a $19 increase in taxes. Moving down, an average home of $200,000, they would get an average increase of $39, and then a home worth $300,000, the taxpayer would see a credit from this equation of $58. If we raised our budget 1%, the numbers change. $100,000 assessed value would be $14 increase, $27, $28, and $43. If we went to 1.5, the increase to the taxpayer would be $11, $22, $23, or $35, based on the value of their home. 2%, they would see a savings of $9, $17, $18, or $27. And if we decided to use banked cap and raise our tax levy 3.75%, the average taxpayer would get back $1, $2, $3, or $4. Now, looking at that collectively, this is what it looks like. So for an average home valued at $100,000, if we went to 0 all the way up to banked cap, here's what you would see in a savings variation. All the way up to a $300,000 assessed value home. Recently, Terry Martucci and I worked on an addition to our website in which you can just click a button and a community member can ask a question for the upcoming board meeting. What that does, number one, if you can't attend the meeting, I know what questions you have. And number two, it gives us as a board time to get your information together. So we don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'll get back to you. I'm sorry, I'll get back to you. We want to know the answers and give them to you. Now you have the opportunity to click a button, fill out a few questions, and your answer will populate right into a Google form, and I can answer it before you even come to the board meeting. I will bring it here because I like to say it for our viewers, to, if they have the same question, it'll be answered for them as well. I did have a question come in from Art Mooney, who loves to email me. And he had a question about preschool, and he did say that a lot of the taxpayers have a question about this. So I thought this was a great thing to put on our first one. He was my only question this week. So the question keeps coming up, is preschool really fully funded? And if we didn't have it, would the district and the taxpayer be saving money? So what I did was I took our budget and I just pulled numbers right from it so the taxpayer and you as the board can see. So here's the money that we spend in preschool each year. A little over $4 million. Okay, the total's down here. These are the 3 grants that come in from the state. So this is all revenue. 3 different types of grants. If you add these 3 up, it comes up to this number, which is this number. So it is completely 100% funded by the state. If we took preschool away, all that would do was leave us with an empty building. Because we're not making money off of it, we're not losing money from it. It's completely funded by the state. Now, President Dalio had a good suggestion and asked if we can put, for the past 5 years, how has the district cut our budget? So I'm sorry if this is a little small to say, but you have here the 2009-10 school year, 10-11, 11-12, and you can see all of the different amounts and line items in which the district cut money. Over here, now it takes us to 12-13, 13-14, 14-15, and the current year that we're in, 15-16. And once again, all of these numbers to your right are line items that were cut from the budgets to save money and to balance our budget. And as I said, there's more to come. This is our starting point and the numbers that we're working with. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
Can you explain, I guess, for the mic, I mean, I know what it is, but maybe for the benefit of the public, explain what the concept of riffing is?
A RIF is a reduction in force, and basically what that means is you can't afford all the staff that you have, so you have to eliminate positions. So basically that's what a RIF is. It's a reduction in force. Someone's not losing their job because of their performance, they're losing it because you can't afford them anymore.
And it was 2010, 2011, there was...
It was 2010, yes,
Yeah.
when most districts had significant RIFs, including at the time where I was Galloway Township, and 69 teachers lost their job that year. So yeah, we had a lot of state funding withheld from us across the board, across the state. Are there any other questions from the board at this time?
Right now, I think Atlantic City, I think just let off the number 250. Is that right? So they're far worse than.
Thank you.
All right. Superintendent's report.
No, that would be next. Yeah, I'll leave that one. Yep, thanks. It's fine. Okay, superintendent's report. Let's see what's been going on in our schools. At the Frog Pond Elementary School, 2nd grade classes sold candy grams during lunch for $1 each from December 15th through the 18th. A message and sweet treat were delivered to happily surprised recipients on December 22nd.
and the proceeds from that went to the Ocean County Animal Shelter. The Frog Pond Student Council has taken the lead on a winter coat drive. Newly and gently used coats will be collected through January 15th, Coats will be distributed to those in need, and they have been already, and the prize for that, Mr. Henderson was their butler for the day. In an effort to encourage technology use in the classroom, 2 additional laptop carts have been ordered for Frog Pond School. The carts contain 24 Chromebooks each. This brings that school to up to 3 laptop carts in addition to the 3 computer labs. Students at Frog Pond attended a Reading Rocks assembly on January 13th. This was a favorite assembly for students incorporating books and magic. Thank you for the PTO for providing that. The second Scholastic Book Fair of the school year will run January 29th through February 5th. Evening hours will be held February 4th from 5 to 7. We also offer the option for families to order online. There is a link on our website and a flyer with instructions that will be sent home with students. At the Mitchell School, Sea Grant Consortium from Sandy Hook came to an all-day workshop for our 5th graders as a result of coming in first place for their science fair held in May of 2015. Joe Holiday Reading Rocks Assembly was presented to K to 6, sponsored by the PTO. Grades 3 to 6 had a spelling bee. 3 finalists will compete in the school-wide spelling bee on Thursday, January 21st. The winner will go onto the Scripps Regional Spelling Bee in March. At the ECC, the students and staff at the Early Childhood Center had a school-wide pajama day. They were cozy and warm while they had many pajama day activities. Mrs. Carrero's class baked bread with her students as a part of their baking study. Many of the students were excited about the coming of snow. Miss Iannico's class and their staff predicted how much snow they will get. They graphed their predictions and they will compare them to actual totals. And Miss Rendizzi's class had a visit from a dad who is a Long Beach Island officer and a tour of his police rescue vehicle. Lastly, an evening of park and pizza was held Thursday, January 14th, and a special thank you to the Pinelands National Junior Honor Society for providing child care and Mike Simoncini for making delicious pizzas. All right, so for the next one, we have a motion that I'm going to read aloud because it does pertain to our wonderful Board of Education. And it says, whereas New Jersey School Boards Association has declared January 2016 to be School Board Recognition Month, a time that all residents might acknowledge the contributions made by our local school board members, and the Little Lake Harbor Board of Education is one of more than 581 local school boards in New Jersey that sets policies and oversees operations for public school districts. And the Little Lake Harbor Board of Education embraces the goal of high-quality education for all New Jersey public school students, and New Jersey local school boards help to determine community goals for the education of approximately 1.4 million children in pre-K through 12, and New Jersey's 4,800 local school board members who receive no remuneration for their services, act as advocates for public school students as they work with administrators, teachers, and parents for the betterment of public education, and school boards strive to provide the necessary resources to meet the needs of all students, including those with special needs. Board of Educations provide accountability to the public. They communicate the needs of school districts to the public, and they convey to the school administrators the public's expectation for schools. New Jersey can take pride in its schools, which rank among the nation's best in key achievement indicators. such as NAEP scores and AP test scores. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Little Lake Board of Education does hereby recognize the services of local school board members throughout New Jersey as we join communities statewide in observing January 2016 as School Board Recognition Month. And it be further resolved that the Little Lake Board of Education urges all New Jersey citizens to work with their local school boards of education and public school staffs towards the improvement of our children's education.
May I have a motion to approve school board recognition resolution?
Motion.
Second. Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Smino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. England? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The board is handing down, I'm going to move on. Open to the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express their each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes as cited in policy number 0167. The public may comment on any item on the agenda at this time. General public comment will occur later in the meeting. Open to the public. Yes, sir.
Jack Shepherd, 28 Hamel. I think one of my questions has already been answered, and that's, with a transportation for a homeless student. Is one of the grants included in transportation for the early childhood?
The homeless student is not in pre-K, right, Erin? No. No, if they're homeless and they have to be transported, that would not be included in the grant.
Okay. No, it just says 5693 to Early Childhood Center. So I just naturally assumed the Early Childhood Center would be the preschool.
Right. Then the transportation costs would come out of that. Any additional costs would not be part of the grant, and that would just come out of our transportation budget, and that would be the same for any student that would be homeless.
Okay. So in other words, transportation is provided for people that attend the early childhood?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is part of the grant. For that case of a homeless student, it would be the cost above and beyond the normal transportation costs.
Okay. And in regards to homeless, I would imagine that Superstorm Sandy, which was 2013, and hopefully with the flooding, there wasn't more problems over the weekend. Will these students be returning, or are they going to be out of district for an extended period of time? Or is it on I imagine, a case-by-case basis?
It's typically a case-by-case basis, so when the information is presented to us, we have to look at multiple factors. Is it cheaper for us to let them stay in the new community where they're living and pay that school tuition? Or is it cheaper to get them a bus? In most cases, we could call other districts and, like, for example, Pinelands, and see if they're already doing something similar in a similar area, and then we would share that service. But those are the factors that we weigh out. Is it cheaper to pay tuition where they're, and it's only supposed to be for a short period of time. Either pay the tuition or house them back and forth.
Okay. Next question, an interim business administrator you're hiring on a per diem basis, 1 to 2 days a week. Is this something new, or is this something that has happened in the past?
In this district, I'm not sure that it's happened in the past. It's happened in other districts numerous times. In recent years, more than ever, with the retirement of a lot of top-level administrators, we have a lot of interims that we can utilize. And it really is to our benefit because they come with a lot of experience, and we wouldn't have to have them here full-time for the time being.
Okay, so in other words, you see this as a cost-saving venture rather than an addition?
At the time being, it is a cost savings. We have to see how it's working out, and if it is in the best interest of the district to only have a part-time person. If it is, that's something that we are definitely going to consider.
Good, thank you.
Virginia Hoden. I am currently the computer literacy teacher in the district. I have been working for Little Lake Harbor for 30 years. In my 30 years, Little Lake Harbor has always been a very progressive school district. Computer literacy began about 28 or 29 years ago with Mr. Tom Dunn. He taught with one computer in the classroom, which was a Radio Shack, so you know it was really And he worked with worksheets and an overhead projector. So we've come a long way since Mr. Dunn has taught here. When Frogpond was built, we then had a full computer working lab. We were the only elementary school in the area that offered our students computer literacy. When Mr. Dunn retired, Mrs. Lynn Sweezy began to teach computers to Frogpond students grades 3 through 6, and Ms. Lescure began to teach GJM students computers with K through 2nd grades. I came on board about 17 years ago because one computer literacy teacher could no longer instruct all of the students. At this time, I was a part-time computer literacy teacher and part-time science lab teacher. The students continued to be on the cutting edge. 3 years ago, the students began to learn the rudiments of coding by participating in the Week of Hour of Code. The students last year had the opportunity to join a coding club. This year, the students had the opportunity to participate in a robotics club. Yes, Little Lake Harbor has always been a leader in education, and in particular, computer literacy. It saddens me to say that the future for the students in Little Lake Harbor is bleak. It saddens me to know that it is the plan of you, the Board of Education members, to cut the computer literacy program. The students will no longer be instructed by special area teacher who can spend his or her time looking for new programs, looking for new apps, looking for cutting edge applications for the students. Who will take up the slack? I'm told it's the classroom teachers. Oh, probably a few teachers will be able to look for new initiatives, but not many because of all the many programs that they have to teach within their day. So who is going to be the losers in the cutting edge of computer literacy programs? The students. Little Lake Harbor will no longer be that school who has always been on the cutting edge of education, and certainly not in technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hoon, what agenda item was that in referring to?
The budget.
There was nothing in the budget about anything being cut, so I'm just asking what agenda item that was in reference to.
I thought it would entail with the talking of the budget. No?
I don't remember seeing that in the agenda at all.
I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Board work session.
Okay, so for Board of the Whole, the first thing that you're going to see in your packet are two different policy revisions in regards to the Family Leave Act. Basically, what I discovered was we just needed something a little more clear-cut for the staff members in regards to, you know, whether they're taking their family leave, is it concurrent with another leave, and this was a blanket one that's used, you know, from the state, so we took all information from there. So we basically just tightened up what currently existed. So there's one for professional staff and one for support staff as well. The district calendar committee met today for the first time. I know we have some of our committee members are here, and Ms. Frasca was there as well. I thought it was a very productive meeting. We came up with a first draft, and we're going to share that via Google Drive and put some more ideas into that. And then ultimately, we're trying to get that approved in February so we can get that out to staff and parents, and they can start planning for the next coming school year. The Finance Committee, Mr. Daly, would you like to report on that?
Yes, we would like just to let everyone know that the committee did meet last week. We went over several things as how we're going to address the budget, how that will impact our town, and then also schedule our upcoming meetings to address it in the public. I think it's really got off to a good start, and I would like to see how it unfolds. I think it's going well, very well.
just to add another piece to that, it's, it's difficult starting with every scenario being negative, but it is what it is. And, just us sitting down together, Matt brought something different to the table, Mr. Dahlia brought something different to the table, and then we have now Jim, and we're really pleased to have him in it as well. So it's nice to have a collaborative effort. The next thing is our board workshop. We had one scheduled in January with Miss Charlene Zorb that had to be rescheduled. So this is the rescheduling of that. It's February 16th in the media center here, and school boards will be presenting on school ethics as well as this, the role of a school board member, and I'd also like them to address the evaluation process for the superintendent, so everyone's familiar with that. Board member disclosure statement. All board members should have gotten an email which sent you to a link that you have to fill out. Basically, it's a financial disclosure. It does not take very long. If you're having issues with that, or you have a hard time logging in for some reason, please let me know, or Terry Martucci. You can even come in during the day and we can help you through that, but it does need to be completed. And the president's update. Anything, Mr. President?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to really thank our local township. They really stepped up this time. We had a really nasty storm, and I was driving through town Saturday during the storm and also Sunday. And I didn't think that the town was going to, roads were going to be as fast and driving as they were. So I got to really give a lot of credit to our township officials and people going out there and braved it. So I want to just thank the town. Okay, recommend motion to approve minutes. Any motion?
Motion.
Second. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Spino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve finance items A through J. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Spino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve finance item K. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Spino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve finance item L. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, there is a question. One says Tuesday, February for the workshop, and this is Monday for the workshop.
Where's that?
Workshop.
You know what, Carmine, one is the regular meeting in February, one's a budget, like a workshop meeting. And then the other thing that you're going to with those school boards is like a training that we have to attend, the ethics training. So there's actually 3 different things in February.
So February, then, we'll be at the Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, the second one, Tuesday is on a meeting. It's like a training for all the school boards, yeah.
Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Spino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve finance item M. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Spino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes, with appreciation.
Mrs. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve finance items N through O. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Frasco? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
There's a slight item change, so I'm gonna read out what it is. So I recommend motion to approve, facilities items A and B. A is that we resolve the Board of Education authorized contracting, I think it was Spiesel? Spiesel, for design and engineering services. So can I have a motion for those 2 items?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr.
to amend the agenda to accept Ms. Cohen's irrevocable retirement effective March 15, 2016, with the compensation for vacation and sick time. Ms. Cohen will remain on paid administration leave. The separation agreement will be formally signed by both parties as discussed in executive session. We have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Abstain.
My apologies, that's my mistake. Board members that are in conflict need to abstain from this.
Mr. Semino?
Abstain.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Ms. Kellen?
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain.
It's okay.
Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the enrollment,
Go back.
go back. Recommend motion to approve policies and procedures items A through E.
That's too far.
It's new business.
Read 11.
And the following items are being presented for informational purposes. Recommend motion to approve personal items A. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Yes. Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve personal items B1 and 2. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve personal items C through I. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve personal items J1 through J6. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve personal items A through N. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve HIB items. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend motion to approve policy and procedures items D through E. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Ms. Braska? Yes. Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Informational items. Enrollment, attendance, health office, suspension, and fire emergency reports are presented for informational purposes. Public comment. The floor is now open to members of the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes cited in policy number 0167. There is a sign-in sheet located in the podium. Please sign in before you speak. The floor is now open.
Superintendent, you're gonna put your presentation, your budget presentation up online?
Yes.
Okay, and also I'd like to say, I'd like that little question thing, I just went on it, and so that it's nice that you can ask a question ahead of
Good,
time.
good.
Because I'll tell my absentee members who didn't show up tonight that they can look at your presentation online.
Yeah, you should be getting a stipend for this, because you're here the most out of all the whole group. They started out really large, now it's just been down to you, so I don't know, you need to get an award or something from them.
Well, I'm still not over my tax bill, but, you know, I can understand, and I also recognize the good work that you're doing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, okay, board four.
If I could take a quick moment, I wanted to thank the school board for putting together the presentation on the budget. I think the meeting we had the other day was very productive. I think we face a hard situation every year going into our budget. As you pointed out, we start off with hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole, and we have to balance the needs of the taxpayer against the needs of the district. I think we're in a better place this year than we were last year. So thank you for helping us to understand that, and look forward to a productive conversation as we move forward.
I think it's, I think probably with the weather too, a lot of people will probably didn't come. People know that our budgets are coming up, you know, with a stronger presence, so I think that's the weather. But yeah, the first meeting we had together was really, just, it was very important, and it was exciting to see that, you know. I really want the public to know part of that, is how many, unfortunately, how many of our employees, staff members were let go when they retired, they were not billed. You get a greater, number in here, so people can see that, and not go to our website, you know, look to see what the numbers are. They can hear it, you know, that's a lot of people that lost their job. We're talking well above 60, 70 over the years. We didn't replace them. So I was like, I was, at every board member meeting, I like to just say that again, so people understand, and we're still coming. That's everything.
Just wanted to commend the finance committee. I spent years on that committee, and it's a daunting task. And I think you guys are off to a great start. I love the presentation, very clear, communicating all of the different factors, and I really appreciate that as a member and also a member of the community. So thank you for your beginning of your long road that you have ahead.
I just kind of want to take a moment and with Mr. Schlick here, once again, thank the township for the relationship that we have with them. I know we keep saying this, but I can't stress it enough because we really do appreciate and value it. John Balone, who can't be here tonight because he's literally worked for 3 straight days helping Stafford Township schools to get cleaned up from the snow and everything that happened there. He kept saying how lucky we are to have the township because they helped with the plowing, they got our streets cleared, we were able to have school today, which was really great, and we owe that all to the relationship that we have with the township, so we appreciate that greatly.
Just want to say too, echo Matt's words. Melissa, thank you for the presentation tonight. Also going to echo Augie's words and say the township, great job with the cleanup. I do know, following Dave on Facebook, he put it out there. People were writing on Facebook what roads weren't being plowed, and you went right to task on doing that. Job well done. Again, hearing the great stuff from Frog Pond, the Candy Grants, the Code Drive, the Reading Rocks by the PTO, the Mitchell School, first place science fair, fantastic stuff. The Jama Day, Miss Corona's class baking, let's see, and Finance Junior Council coming out to help out over there. Also, Mr. Shepard, thank you for coming out and asking us the pertinent questions that we can take the feedback back to, I guess, your group. That'll help us foster communication between the communities out there. And Ms. Hoden, thank you for 17 years of service here and continuing on. And again, too, you know, it's the first that I'm hearing about any kind of computer literacy program being cut. You know, I'll do everything, and I'm sure that this board will do everything that in its power to prevent programs like that from disappearing. Okay, and once again, guys, thank you for electing me. I plan on doing a great job for you guys. I hope you know, this is just the start. And thanks again, and guys, thank you.
Well, I've got one more thing to add. Thank you again, Mr. Schlick. You're at all our board meetings. Your presence is noted. We went to Finance Board meeting last, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So we're gonna make more of a common appearance. Not there's 2 we have bi-weekly. We're gonna go to the most important
You did great.